All right, everybody, this is Samsung's brand new Galaxy Book 2 Pro. This is a 15.6-inch, super thin, super light laptop. I've never seen anything like this before, and I'm really excited about it. If you're looking for a good work machine, something that you can do office applications, browse the web, use Teams, do Zoom calls, that type of thing, this is going to be right up your alley. One of the really cool things about this laptop is the battery life. It's rated at 21 hours. So even if you do the simple math and say, okay, maybe I get 75% of that, you're still looking at 15, 16 hours of battery life. Now, I've only had it for 24 hours, so I have not done a stress test on the battery, but I am coming off of the 10th generation ThinkPad X1 Carbon, which has the same chipset, but had about average battery life, right? 7-8 hours of battery life under those work conditions that I mentioned. But so far already, I'm seeing much better battery life with this. And I have everything set to balanced or optimized mode using the Samsung settings and the Windows settings. More on that in just a minute. So for this video today, since it's just an initial look, I'll give you a tour of the device, and then I'll tell you about my experience so far, and we'll talk about what the full review will look like. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the 15.6-inch model. It is a full-size laptop. This is not the kind of thing where, you're going to have compromises in terms of like the keyboard size or the display size. Like, you're getting the full boat here. There's really nice Samsung branding on the top. You can run your finger across it and it feels really good. It does pick up smudges, but nothing like a razor blade. That's a gaming laptop for those of you who aren't familiar. This is the back of the device. It's very clean. And there's this two-tone finish going on where in the right lighting, I mean, it's a single tone finish, let me be clear, but in the right lighting, it looks like there's this highlight on the deck. It looks on the display, it looks really cool. There is a gap here, but I haven't had any issues with the power charger going through it or anything like that. So it's more of an aesthetic thing, and it caps off where the hinge is. This hinge is strong, but there is some screen wobble. All right, on the right-hand side of the laptop, we have a headphone jack, a USB-A port, and a micro SD card slot reader. So if you have some interest in exchanging data in that way, you have an outlet. Now, it might look like there's a gap here between the display and the deck, but there isn't. So this is tight, right? There's no problem there. There is a tapered wedge design, so it's thicker in the back than it is in the front. By the time you get to the front, it is incredibly thin, thinner than a MacBook Air. I haven't checked the dimensions, but I just, I have a MacBook Air, so side by side, this is thinner. Okay, now the front of the device, again, has a wedge design, but also there's this nice lip here. So as you run your finger along the front, you know exactly where you can lift to get a nice one-handed open. And on the other side of the device, full-size HDMI out, absolutely a requirement for me, a USB-C port, and then a Thunderbolt port. You can charge with either one, but only this one is Thunderbolt. So if you need Thunderbolt type technology, just pay attention to that. The next thing I want to show you is on the bottom of the laptop. So you might see an indentation here, or this mark. I can't quite get it out. So when I first powered up or got the device, I put it on the desk and it started sliding all over the place. So right here where you see this discoloration, there was a strip of plastic and it was sticky. I think to protect the feet, which protected the laptop, but because of that plastic, it was sliding all over the place. Now I was able to remove for all 4 feet, I was able to remove that sticky plastic, and now the device doesn't slide around my desk as easily. But in doing so, one of those feet came out and I had to pop it back in. And it's fine. I haven't had any issues with it trying to come out, but it's just a little bit of, it gave me a little bit of concern that maybe this device wasn't going to be as well made as I'd hoped. So far, so good. That hasn't come to light, but just something to think about when you're pulling those off. Be very careful. All right, so as I mentioned, you get a one-handed open, which exposes this beautiful AMOLED display. More on that in a second. Let's talk about the keyboard and the trackpad. The trackpad is fantastic. It's very big. It feels good to use. Has a nice responsive click to it, which I love. The deck it's still aluminum, but it has this finish on it that I can't quite pick out. It almost feels like a bit of sand, right? So it has a nice grip to it, if that makes sense. The keyboard feels really good. It is backlit with 3-stage backlighting, and it's a nice soft color that comes through. I'm not able to demonstrate it very well right now. Let me see if I can turn my light off for you and actually make it come through. No? I'm gonna try. Yep, sorry. All right, we'll do it for the full review. The keys feel very good and they're super quiet. Listen to this. And that's me like slamming on them to make sure you hear something. They're very quiet keys. They are soft, so you have to be a little bit aware of that. It took me some time to get used to it, but I've only had it for a day, and I feel like I'm pretty much adjusted, but not 100% yet. On the right side of the keyboard deck, there is a fingerprint reader, and also this is the power button. I find the fingerprint reader to be mostly accurate, but there are a couple of times where I've had to, put my finger down a couple times. So keep that in mind. I think if I add my finger as the same finger as a second finger, right, just to create some more opportunity for accuracy, that could be good, but that probably reduces the security level. So just keep that in mind as well. The stickers are well placed, but they are going to go. I am definitely going to be removing those stickers, but I wanted to show you what stickers you get. This just these two, and they're actually pretty well aligned, which doesn't always happen when you buy a laptop. Okay, the display itself has very thin bezels around the top and the sides, but the bottom there is a bit of a chin. I would say that for all the 16:9 displays that I've seen, this is one of the smaller chins, and hopefully it's coming through relative to the size of my thumb. It's not too bad. If this were a 16:10 display, then certainly you would have a much thinner bezel. But hey, this is where we're at. You gotta pick your poison. There's always going to be adjustments. A full glory. I am really impressed with this display. So this is an AMOLED display, really accurate color representation just from the naked eye. I don't have a way to test that technically. Now the brightness is very good, so you can just slam at this and it gets nice and bright. Let me turn this off for you. It gets nice and bright, and as I've been running this laptop during the day as well as in the evening time, I never ran it at full brightness, which is going to help with your eye fatigue. But more importantly, I think, well, also importantly, maybe not more importantly, is that it's going to help with battery life. So earlier I was looking at the battery, and at 92% battery life remaining, I had a 22-hour and 44-minute battery life estimate. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the case for reality, right? As you use the machine, that estimate is going to change. It's going to become more accurate as the battery gets lower, and it's not going to end up being 22 hours and 44 minutes from 92%. But the fact that it's rated for 21 hours and it gave me such a high estimation, I think that it's probably going to be a 15-hour battery life machine. So rated at 21, but I think we'll get 15-ish for basic office use. I'll be able to put that to the test in the next week or two, and then give you guys a full review at that time. Okay, now so there are Windows settings, as you're all probably very aware, and then there are Samsung settings. Now, before I dive into that, there are a number of Samsung applications in here. I haven't had a chance to really test them out. I have a Samsung phone and a Samsung watch. I don't have Samsung earbuds, but all of these devices, they're part of an ecosystem, and this laptop is a way to enter that ecosystem and attach all those devices. But you don't have to do all of them. You can do some, not others and stuff like that. Now, it's kind of a play on what Apple is doing, but Samsung, of course, has to also piggyback on whatever Microsoft does, at least with the operating system. So anyhow, here's my point. Samsung Flow will allow you to manage your notifications and thereby respond to messages on your phone. I didn't see a way to look into my text message archive and then respond or create new messages. So it's strictly reactionary, and that wasn't sufficient, particularly since there's Microsoft's Your Phone application, which was co-developed, I believe, by Samsung. So I didn't like Samsung Flow, so I uninstalled it, and then I went to using the Your Phone app, and everything works great. You can access your text messages, your photos, notifications. You can grab files. You can open up Android applications directly from Windows. It works great. So if you don't like Samsung Flow, you have an option. If you don't like Your Phone app, then yeah, you have a Samsung option as well. Okay, the other applications include things like Smart Things, which will allow you to adjust your home devices, alarm systems, speakers, lights, that kind of thing. I don't use any of that stuff really. So anyhow, I didn't bother testing it out. But the Samsung settings are separate from the Windows settings, but the Samsung settings can override the Windows settings. So for example, you can set this thing to a different battery mode through Windows. Better, best performance, balance mode, better battery life. But then in Samsung settings, you can change it to optimize mode, right? So let's go ahead and open up Samsung settings. And you'll notice it's very smooth. Things open up pretty quickly. Now under advanced features, you've got your studio mode, control face effects, background effects, and other video related features when you're using your camera app. So in other words, AR. Auto booting, I may disable this because something I've noticed, at least in sleep mode, which this doesn't reference, a couple of times the laptop has turned on when it was in my backpack, which is a no-go. I cannot have that happen. Now, specifically to the battery, you can protect the battery by having it cap off at 85%, but also you have your performance modes. So I've kept it on optimized, but I haven't ran any benchmarks yet. When I run my benchmarks, I'll put it in high performance and I'll do an optimized. But so far in optimized mode, which again would override your Windows performance and battery setting, I haven't really heard the fans spin up. I actually have, but they haven't been very loud. And you have to put your ear to the back or the bottom of the laptop to actually hear it, which is super cool. There's also keyboard backlighting, so you can change these settings as you'd like to. So for the most part, there aren't a lot of settings to change to the Samsung app, but I just wanted to call out that it would override what you have going on in Windows, which can be confusing. For example, I didn't know there were Samsung settings. So I was doing my settings, and then I started looking at the Samsung Flow application and Smart Things, and as I was typing in Samsung settings came up as one of the options, and I clicked on it and logged in with my Samsung account, and you know the story from there. Okay, so camera. There is a 1080p camera now. Here we go. It's me. This is my crappy light, and this is my iced tea. So anyhow, the camera is 1080p, and it looks really good. I imagine it's not coming through super great right now, but it is 1080p, which inherently is going to be better than using 720p. But sometimes those things don't actually turn out to be super accurate, right? So anyway, it is default to 1080p, which is great. So is the video, and it's definitely going to get you through your Zoom calls and such. So that's what I wanted to show you for this initial video. The Galaxy Book 2 Pro is a very surprising laptop for me. I didn't think I would love it as much as I do. And, the thing about the Carbon that I really was looking forward to was the battery life and performance, but unfortunately neither really held up. So I'll benchmark this thing to see if it at least can beat out the Carbon. Even if it doesn't, what this has that the Carbon does not have is ultra portability. Not that a pound here is that big of a deal, or 0.2 inches is, here or there is that big of a deal. But when it's your money and you're trying to find the thing that you really want, don't compromise. And if you have to work an extra shift somewhere or pick up a side hustle so you can get that thing that you really want, do it. If there's anything I've learned, growing up without money and not having the ability to buy the kind of tech that I wanted, using a 486 all the way through high school, but when I was in high school, there were Pentium 3s and probably Pentium 4s. But anyway, when you have to, then you get older and you learn how to make money, don't set aside your passions and your hobbies if you don't want to. You don't have to compromise in that area. So go find the laptop that you want, find a way to get it, anyhow. Okay, that's enough preaching. So unsolicited advice. Welcome to the channel. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.